Welcome back to On a Water Break, the podcast where we talk about everything you and your friends are talking about at rehearsal on a water break. And this week we go on a water break with marching vlogs.
Take off the mat and go.
Welcome to On a Water Break, the podcast where we talk everything marching arts.
Everyone, bring it in.
It's time for a water break.
So, everybody, we got Steven here, and we've got Joey on the sidelines with us as well. Joey, how you been doing?
We're doing all right. It's the busy times. We're trying to get, those closers on. I'm trying to get some closers out to drill clients. So, it's the busy times, but it's the best times because after this, it's just judging on the weekends and praying and hoping that we can get some of this choreo in.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel like I have absolutely no free time to myself, but I carved out a little bit of time today for a very exciting guest. So we've got Sergio Bravo with us here from Marching Vlogs. Sergio, thanks for hopping on the call.
Thanks for having me, guys. This is cool.
Yeah, awesome. Just before we get going here, the way we always introduce all our guests is this 32 count life story. You'll get 8 and in from the Met, and it'll give all our listeners a chance to know who you are and what your background is in the marching arts. You ready?
I think so.
All right, let's give it a shot.
All right. I'm Sergio Bravo. I'm 28, and I run and I've co-founded Marching Vlogs. And a little bit about my background. I marched I was marching since high school, but I ended up marching in University of Nevada, Reno. I did Santa Clara Vanguard Winter Percussion, Santa Clara Vanguard Cadets. I did NorCal Indoor Percussion in Sacramento. I did Envision, which was in Reno. I did Mandarins 2017, 18, Pulse 19, and then I aged out. There it is.
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't even know that we were marching at the same time and that you were running marching vlogs while you were marching.
Kind of. We can get into that. I mean, it started while I was marching, but yeah, we can. Yeah,
why don't you take us through that a little bit? Like, when did the page first start? I guess to give some context for the listeners, it'd be better to tell the audience a little bit about your page first. If somehow they know our podcast, but they don't know your page. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. Marching Vlogs is a community-based platform where we make a bunch of content, documentaries, anything really related to the marching arts, and we kind of just flood it onto, major socials like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook.
Yeah. And you're not mentioning it, but the page is huge. It's a very big page. One of the biggest pages that I'm aware of in the activity, at least definitely if you're excluding like the DCI page itself. So you guys have had a really successful run at it. When did you first make the page, and what was kind of like the inception of the idea?
Yeah, so officially Marching Vlogs started in 2019 when actually Gridbook, Mark Perret specifically, was watching my personal, I guess, video journal that I had when I was aging out. And he just liked the idea that I was, in the way I was vlogging it. And he was like, man, this would be cool if somebody would take this idea and kind of centralize it and have other people journal their experiences onto one centralized platform. And so, we kind of chatted, and I was like, I kind of already did this, and it'd be cool to bring the community together and actually execute that idea. So yeah, during the summer, we started off with kind of like an experimental takeover thing where we had, I believe it was 5 vloggers throughout different drum corps, and they took over the Instagram for about a week at a time. So we got an in-depth look at, like a raw, uncut, kind of like, here's what's going on candidly. I'm going to put it on the story, and whatever comes about it is what's being seen. And so that was kind of the idea, the raw behind-the-scenes look on the ground, boots on the ground level, kind of at the member level. So yeah, that's how it started.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's like you're getting back towards like the roots of the idea, because I know you guys produce all sorts of other visual like content related to the marching arts in different ways. But kind of giving that power back to the the member in the line is what makes some of the best content. Have you ever had, I've always been like a little bit worried because I do a similar thing with the Yeah Bass page where I run takeovers, and I'm always like in the back of my head, like, don't do anything I wouldn't do. Has there ever been any trouble with that with the marching vlogs page?
I think maybe to some degree, like people might say something stupid, for example, that they didn't mean to get on the vlogs, or maybe there's curse words or something like that, but never like anything terribly bad where somebody got kicked out or anything. But yeah, I think whenever I have a takeover go on, there's a process for sure, and we try to do our best to kind of streamline that and make sure that they understand what is being asked of them and who they're representing and why they're doing it, most importantly. So.
What is your process to get somebody, like, let's say that I have a drum line and I want to get on the marching vlogs page. What's that process look like?
Yeah, so it changes, but it's kind of slowed down of how we've made great changes with the system as of recently. Maybe like the past couple seasons, but we don't really discriminate. The only thing that we don't kind of have on the page is maybe high school level or below, only because, there's probably a bigger issue with hosting minors that I don't really want to kind of dive into, or just the liability sake. Like I would need parents' permission, I guess, and that would just be another step, So, but honestly, what I want is to expand it to more niches, if you will. Fall band, not just drum corps, not just indoor. The color guard scene, the horn scene. Even like the educational space. Like I would love more educators taking over, because then we get the time of day for them to like, okay, here's what I do as a tech at XYZ. And it's just another perspective in the marching arts that, somebody could take away somewhere in the world. So,
yeah, that's interesting there. It sounds like you do have like some visions and goals for what you think the future of the marching vlogs page might look like. Are there any other sort of ideas and places you might want to take it? Or just like big lofty goals and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like marching vlogs has been growing and evolving over the last 5 years. And to be honest with you, if I were to tell you where it's going to go, like each year that you ask me, it kind of changes and varies. Because I don't know, I like to go with the flow, and this activity kind of tells me what works and what doesn't, right? So if, for example, I have this idea of doing this kind of content, but I get a lot of pushback because I don't have access to specific educators for whatever reason, then I'll probably shift, the content structure to fit what we can handle and what, is being asked of me, I guess, in some regard to like the community, right? Because people do request specific content, and sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. I guess for bigger goals though, for the sake of it, I really want to make like a drum corps movie one day. That would be super cool.
Okay. That is cool.
Like, I don't know, something like Drumline the movie, but drum corps-esque, So,
dude, actually, I think like a drum corps season would so perfectly fit the like runtime of a movie, because they tried to make a series out of it, and like I didn't watch the series, but I didn't hear great things about the series either. The one with the Rock.
What series are you talking about? Oh, what is it? Clash of the Corps?
Yeah, like Clash of the Corps or something. Did you see it, Joey?
Yeah, you didn't like Brandon Olander playing snare drum on the top of a mountain?
What? They did that?
Yeah,
I didn't even watch it, to be honest. I can't even comment.
Now I feel like I should watch it, because I do want to watch Brandon Olander playing snare drum on top of a mountain.
And I might just be misremembering things, and I'm sure if I get things wrong, we know how the internet works, and this is the last podcast I'm a part of. But I feel like I remember like specifically seeing Brandon playing snare drum on a stand, and The Rock was just like, yeah. And if that's not it, then that's just the vibe I took away from all of the advertisements that were going on. It felt it felt like I was like, when has The Rock been about marching band? How did he get in with the cadets and the Blue Devils? R.I.P. cadets,
Look, don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to about how The Rock got in with the cadets, man.
Yeah. Yikes.
Yeah, what does Rock have to do with band? Like, honestly, what does he know about?
It
reminds me when Kanye said something about how like Lady Gaga's a music producer, but what does she know about cameras at Polaroid?
What does she know about cameras?
What you know about drum corps, bro?
Yeah.
That's funny, dude.
That's one of my favorite Kanye quotes.
Yeah. Memorable.
Yeah.
Drum corps movie would be awesome, though, dude. Get Kanye to produce it.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about that, but yeah,
bad for the brand. Probably bad for the brand. I agree.
Probably just unpredictable for the brand.
Unpredictable for the brand. That's the most truth. Yeah.
Yeah.
But drum corps movie, that would be really cool because you could like actually take like 10, 15 minutes. The 3 acts of a movie would kind of play out through like your audition, spring training, and tour. You know, and like ramping through up to that like crescendo at the end with finals. Like, you definitely should make that happen.
Right.
Especially
no, I mean, to be sorry to cut you off, but like recently we just in yesterday, to be exact, we just got done with a shoot that started to like have an experimental early phase of what that idea could be. And so we're really excited to put something together. It's not a full on movie.
Yeah.
But there's stuff in the works for sure, like narrative type stuff. So
type stuff.
That's
cool. Where would that go? Does that go up on your YouTube?
Well, we have a strategy for distribution, which we won't talk about right now. But
yeah, that makes sense.
But it will be. I think it'll be really cool. We're trying to garner a lot of interest, and we're going to see who watches it and take note of what kind of engagement we get. And then hopefully it turns into something bigger. You know, that's always the first step to something great, I think, is just taking small steps forward.
Right.
But we were really proud of what happened yesterday. I put up BTS stuff, so it's no secret. But like for what it actually is, we're excited to announce what it will be soon.
Yeah, that'll be really cool. Good luck with that project. And if you ever want to come on a podcast and talk about it when you need to promote it, sounds like a conversation I would love to have. But
for sure.
What would you say? Have there been any hurdles along the way towards growing the page, getting it off the ground?
Hurdles? Yeah, I mean, a fair number, I'd say. I think the takeovers have been always our bread and butter for what kind of content we started on and continue to maintain. And so I think the biggest hurdles, at least within that, has always been kind of the onboarding and making sure, right, like our system and how we have people sign on, the information we need from them in order to streamline, what we have to do to make sure that they know what they have to do. And so, we've done 12 seasons of it, and I've made different videos explaining, here's what a takeover done. And, after a long form of what they'd have to, give me information, a little introduction of themselves. And then after that, they all have to sign a contract to ensure that all those things are met. So I guess that was a whole struggle, like trying to figure out that system. And I think that once I had that kind of more in place around like season 6,
that's what I was
it
just
became
thinking
a little
about,
bit more.
Man. I was like, that's real, because I do takeovers with the base page, but that's we're not at the contractual level yet, but that's clearly like the more professional way to get it done. It's inspiring. Someday I'm going to just like nonchalantly approach you from the United page, be like, oh yeah, we need to do a takeover. And the whole time I'm just going to be like taking notes on how to do it better at Unibase.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because, the last thing you want is something to happen to the account and the page and not have your bases covered. We've worked super hard to maintain what we got. So
yeah,
gotta check our grounds.
I see what you did there. Bases covered. This guy.
Yep, did that on purpose. You already know.
What would you say is one of the biggest like rewards? We just talked about hurdles, but like, what do you feel like is one of the biggest rewards you've had with the page with marching blogs?
That's a great question. There's a lot that I could talk about, but I think just meeting and expanding my network has been really great. I think I've learned just a lot being in front of different ensembles, educators, being in their spaces, because we're more than just a takeover page. Like, we've built a whole community. Our platforms, I don't know where we're at with followers now, but I think it was like 500,000 across everything. And we have, I'm sorry, I'm getting a bunch of messages. But whenever we go out to big events and stuff, being in front of like these different groups in and out, and just like shaking hands and saying what's up to people, and then having people also tell us like they joined band because of MV, is like, that's so fulfilling.
Wow.
Like, being in the middle of the space and having people tell me that to me was like, just fills my heart, I think, because I started so young, and I think we all have our journey, and so to be one of the influences into why they joined, saying like, your takeovers stripped the door and it wasn't so intimidating anymore, and I just noticed everybody's just human trying to make a dream ensemble, and so that it touches me a little bit, so it's really fulfilling.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's definitely like, I can emphasize or just recall being in their shoes too, like when I was auditioning back in like 2016, 17, 18 type time period, because I would see like those types of marching vlogs posts, and it would make it seem a lot more accessible.
Right.
So that's cool. That's awesome that's done that and had that effect on the activity. Is there any one moment, we did have this other question here, that like one most shocking moment over the years? Is there anything that sticks out in your head where you're like, whoa, that's crazy? Maybe like the first time something was really catching off, or group wanted to work with you that you're like, wow, this is becoming a thing.
Yeah, I mean, man, there's a lot of those moments for me. Like when another group's like, come on by, I'm like, really? Let's go. Like I'm so down to pull up. Bigger groups for sure. Like this past summer, we got. I was just doing outreach just to people I know, and Tom Rarick, the head of Bluecoats Percussion, was like, Sergio, please come by. We love your stuff, and I'm like,
oh, that's awesome.
Oh my gosh. Like, we'll be able to
get
come
that from
Blue
Tom
Coats,
Rarick is like a real compliment.
No, for sure. And like I met him a couple years ago, but he's a big time dude, so I'm sure he didn't remember me at the time. But when he actually said that he's seen my work and stuff, it was like, oh, great, man! Like, that's so cool. And that was a moment I was on the Blue Coats with my gimbal, pulling back and just like living the dream of like, oh, I'm on field with Blue Coats, right? And I still get that feeling, being 28. It's like the 1 week a year that I'm like in front of the best drum corps, all in a condensed period of time. It's like, couldn't ask for anything better.
So I'm sure the work is pretty seasonal then in that regard, where it's like for a couple weeks each year it goes really hard, and then like, how do you fill up the rest of the time?
Well, the condensed periods of time that we have that we're doing, I'm sorry, I'm getting bombarded messages.
Yeah, no worries. Like, I mean, you do operate, pretty large social media page. I'm sure that is.
It's like producer chats. They're all talking about the shoot yesterday.
That's how you fill your time, right there. We just saw it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, for sure. Well, to answer that, actually, it's interesting because we shoot, in a condensed amount of time, but it takes so long to process everything that I never not have enough content to edit. Like, the backlog of terabytes of footage I have is kind of insane. So if I'm not, working, I am editing for the content of marching vlogs. But also the bank is so fat now of completed projects that I could take something and cut it up and put it on Instagram. And it doesn't take me that long. Like, I have templates for all that. And
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're probably spending more of your time working on producing actual longer form videos for the YouTube page that you can make clips out of for the Instagram page.
For sure. I mean, we try to have our strategy and see what kind of content would take up, I guess, the least amount of power and the most amount of value. So, if we go, that's why we like to spend the last week usually at WGI or DCI, because we don't have to worry about bad reps most of the time. It's like I can show up at any point in the week and not have a logistical problem of like, I'm coming on Tuesday. You guys are going to probably be fine. It's finals week. But if I were to come visit earlier in the season, there's a little bit of that, like, I don't know if I can use this yet. It's not representative of who they want to be seen as.
Yeah.
And, simply because it's early season. So, yeah.
That's one that's always been weird for me as well with like doing the bass drum stuff, is that you want to fill up the whole season with like videos of people drumming, but no one actually really wants their drumming video out there until finals week. Like, unless you
really
you like got this one really great rep that you were like, whoa, we want to put this out there so everyone sees that this is what we're up to right now. But even in that moment, you're still like, but we gotta be cleaner next week, fellas. Like,
yeah, next week comes choreo, like
yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick break here, so let's get out onto the field. That way Marching Vlogs can get the cameras set up and record everything that they need. But we will be right back with What Are We Doings and Gush and Goes in a moment.
Hey everyone, it's Jeremy, your producer from On a Water Break, and here are your announcements coming from the box. While you're enjoying this amazing episode, don't forget our other episodes, including the one about Peggy Twigs, the one where we go behind the scenes of the Olympics and the marching arts. We check out the first female drummers from Crossmen. We also have amazing special features, including At Step Off with Jack Goudreau, Lost in Translation with Cynthia Bernard, and Behind the Lens with Chris Marr and Russell Tanakaya. Don't forget our other bonus feature, On a Water Break With, where we explore individuals or small groups. We talk to people like Eric Carr, Forte Athletics, and comedian Tony Deo. If you know of a story, or you know of someone that would make a great story, email us at onawaterbreakpodcast@gmail.com. Okay, field staff, take it away.
All right, everybody. We are back now with Sergio Bravo from Marching Vlogs. And Sergio, you were just telling me that Marching Vlogs, MV is actually involved in like a little bit more, maybe than just some of the videos we've been discussing already. What else does MV get into?
Yeah, so MV is currently in this like phase of expanding to not just create a community, but to also help different marching arts businesses, brands, and the organizations themselves with different media solutions.
Okay.
And so in a business aspect, we want to make sure we contribute to the brands that actually make a difference in the community, and kind of share our knowledge that we've learned by building marching vlogs with video production and social media and all that good stuff. And so, yeah, we've been, like especially this past season at DCI, we had a few clients reach out that were spread amongst marching arts that needed content during DCI finals week. And so we were able to help them with things that they couldn't get on their own, especially considering that it's the last bit of their season and they'll never be able to go back in time and record those things that, we wish we would have got, for example, finals.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. That makes sense. So like you kind of start to branch out and become a production company of sorts, leveraging all your resources and experience in like recording band effectively, that now groups can reach out to MV in order to get like such a quality like representation of their finals week and something like that.
Pretty much. And we've called it MV Productions. So producing, marching vlogs productions pretty much.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I'm pretty sure I did see that on Instagram at some point. I saw that out there and I was like, what are they cooking up? What are they doing? When we were talking about the movie earlier, I actually started thinking, I was like, maybe that's what MV Productions is about. This
For
makes
sure.
sense.
And to that point, there was a production company who had a drum corps motivated writer, and he needed help facilitating video, essentially what I'm doing, which is like providing those solutions for their production, right? So I
Yeah.
was able to put together a drum line through the network of MV and kind of leverage those networks to give them a cast, for example.
Wow.
And so that's like one solution that revolves marching arts, right? And it doesn't have to necessarily mean be doing video, but we figure out a way to fit that piece into the puzzle, right?
Yeah.
If it's an organization that needs help with video, then we obviously have the capabilities for that too. You can probably see the camera behind me of a whole studio full of gear, and this is the stuff we use to make marching vlogs content. So you can kind of expect the same quality that we put up on the cover to be resonating with, different organizations.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's such like a smart idea and a great way that you can like try to grow this page out into something that's more than just like an Instagram page for vlogs about drumline.
Yeah.
Have you considered maybe trying to like work with NFL drumlines or anything like that?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the kind of to touch my point earlier about the takeovers, I would love for that to happen, like at NFL drumlines. And that way it kind of opens a connection to doing the production, because then they would see what else we're doing. But yeah, I mean, 100%, if I were to get flown out to shoot some NFL drumlines, like I'm packing my bags right away. That sounds like fun.
Well, that's what's so tricky. I do the Eagles drumline, and I feel like even mentioning it on the podcast, I'm like leery about, because I think the reason that so many NFL lines don't have a great like social media representation is that their organization from the top down wants to be very hands-on about how it's represented online. So like the Eagles have still yet to become comfortable with giving us an Eagles drumline Instagram account.
Oh,
you know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah. But then in that same sense, though, like the Eagles drumline is doing a lot for the Eagles. I don't know that it would work out, but like if you were to reach out, you might end up collaborating with the Philadelphia Eagles page,
Yeah, I mean, that
like
would be
that's the reality of a lot of these lines is they don't have their own pages. They use the actual social media of like the football team. But
yeah, I wonder. I know Lindsay Schuler just posted about UDB with the Commanders out there in Washington. I wonder what that looks like, or what that what she's allowed to do, what she's not allowed to do. That's I didn't know that about that. I did a little bit with a drumline out in Kansas, and it was something similar where, hey, you don't talk about this, you don't like your job is to teach them drums and to have something at the the get-togethers or the tailgates or what have you. But that's really interesting. I didn't know about that. I mostly just came in and was just like, we're going to do choreo right here. I didn't know that there was so much hush hush about that. That's cool.
Yeah, there definitely can be.
It can be, and I think it's more of like the marketing teams at all these organizations and stuff, because they have their strategies, obviously, to how they want to promote their stuff. So it makes sense. And I think for what works during those situations is you come in as like a contractor within their organization. So that way there's no like brand mix up or anything. They still have full control of that. And I found that to work out. Like I've just been hired on as an in-house either producer or shooter. And then I just still have my eye on the marching arts portion. So, it doesn't necessarily mean marching vlogs always has to collaborate, which is good for situations like that where,
where the brand is kind of something that they're sensitive about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's so cool. It's really like inspiring to me as someone that does run a page. Like I kind of look up to marching vlogs because it's the very big and like successful version of what I would want to grow something like Base into. Well, do you have any like advice maybe for people out there that run marching oriented social media pages, sort of things you've learned that might be helpful?
Yeah, I think if you guys stick to, giving a lot of value, I mean, everyone says that in content information, but like particularly for marching arts, like entertaining with performances, because I think we all were drawn into that when we were all starting. It was like, wow, these guys are precise. They're great at what they do. Showcasing any of that is always a hit. Whenever you connect with the individual, I've noticed goes viral. Like whenever we have something that is funny and it's like, oh, I would do that, or Oscar would do that. Freaking Oscar would do that. He would send that to Oscar, right? Like, there was a really controversial video that popped off a while ago on marching vlogs of a kid like breaking a drum head, and it got millions of views, and it stirred like a bunch of people talking about how like, oh, super irresponsible, kids, people need drum heads, but on the other end, that head was stretched so far already that it was not usable for any given scenario. So it's like the two sides of the coin. It's like yes and no, but that's what, if you're a marching arts social media page, kind of pulling on those relatable heartstrings almost, like will bring a lot of reach in, and then you could talk about what you want to talk about. It's like you can make all this other stuff, but if you don't kind of reach that inner child of, this is why I joined the marching arts, this is what I look up to, and I think we can all find that, and that's what I'm kind of just that sunglass, the viewfinder for the marching arts at times. Like I see something, content that we've caught, and I'm like, that's going to work because I know what I would like. I would like to see that. And usually it works out, So.
What are we doing?
It's a Bob.
What are we doing?
This is my favorite one.
Dude, we got all the types of jams. It's a shame you don't got the news this week because the news intro jam goes really hard, unironically. But Joey, do you got any What Are We Doings to get us started this week?
So mine, in connection or in relation to what we're talking about today, is about social media posting. I just learned about scheduling posts, and so my What Are We Doing is, what are we doing not scheduling regular content for our pages. I run a marching band page for my Marching by Montez page for my services, my drill writing business and consultation. I do one for my independent ensemble, Eva Wins, and then I do my own personal stuff that kind of is just sharing some of my hip hop dance stuff. And I fail year in, year out, and every year, like December comes and I go, I posted 5 times this year. I feel stupid. And I've been like, I went and did the advisory board in Vegas. I went and performed, in Vegas with this. I went and did this. I went and did this. And it's like, I didn't post about it. Did it even really happen? And I know it happened and I enjoyed the time, but as somebody that's trying to build their business, it is really important to schedule these times and schedule these posts and have a strategy to what you're doing. We're no longer living in an age where you can just post and things are going to happen. There have to be strategies. There have to be timing. And so what are we doing? Not setting our pages up for it, and even our ensembles and organizations for success by not scheduling our posts.
Yeah, I feel like that's a big at me. I'm the worst for this. I'll like go hard for like a couple weeks right around finals, and then you'll see like nothing for like 2 months.
Yep. I just went hard on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I guarantee you this week, if I don't I don't like stick to my schedule, I wouldn't post anything until probably Dayton. I wouldn't post anything. Maybe Grand Nats, but even then, I'd be like, I'm an indie.
Yeah. Well, Sergio, do you have any sort of advice or things you've run into over the years for how like you keep the content stream flowing? Is there like a trick?
Yeah, I think path to least resistance is a huge thing that I try to keep in mind. if there's a lot of resistance of doing and recording and capturing the content, then there's a likely chance you won't do anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then even if when we do think about it, there's like that resistance of like, oh, I forgot about it. Now I got to go do it. And then there's this pressure and the cycle that never ends, right? So,
Yeah.
why I really like the way that we've done marching vlogs is just like, I just tell the vloggers, record what's in front of you, right? And even some of my business mentors that I look up to are just like, record your BTS and put it on your story. You don't even have to edit that. Like, just show people you're working. Show people this is what you're doing, and then people kind of build that trust with you. And then when you do put something up there that's valuable, people listen and lean in a little more. So, path to least resistance is what I'd say.
Yeah, that's very valuable advice, honestly, because I definitely have got myself caught in the trap of like wanting to put together some nice project and then getting into that like analysis by paralysis sort of problem where you sit there and you're doing so much work on it that you never actually do anything at all. That's a really good perspective. Yeah. Sergio, do you have a what are we doing for us?
So okay, walk me through this. What are we doing? Like
yeah, what are we?
Takes?
Yeah, it's like a hot take, kind of tongue in cheek. Like, what are we like? Mine last week was, what are we doing? Not setting time for ourselves. I'm mostly at myself, but like, Susie Harloff, my favorite one that I've heard so far of all time was Susie Harloff was like, what are we doing? Not going to WINS shows, and then that this past finals was the biggest WINS audience that the idiom has seen, and I was like, Susie, you did it. This is all Susie. It can be something like that. It can be something as, what are we doing not tying our shoes before we leave the house? It's pretty tongue-in-cheek.
Okay. I don't know. I think something I was thinking about over the weekend is like how and this can relate to the marching arts, but I'm so in the film world that like when I think about production companies and them not treating their crews right, it's like, what are we doing not thinking about the experience of our crew members, right? And to touch to the marching arts, it's like, what are we doing not getting feedback from our members or getting feedback from our staff? What are we doing not optimizing their experience to, ultimately help the ensemble grow, right? Like, you can't really pursue on without a purpose and without somebody, people leaning on a certain idea. And if the experience is bad, who's going to follow that? Like, who's going to be on board with that? So, what are we doing not thinking about the member experience?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, big time. That's what I thought was fun. Like, you've said that you get connected with lots of people through marching vlogs. We get connected with people similarly through doing the podcast. And Blue Devils people always say the same thing that you're saying, that just like prioritizing the experience is the way to go, and that's what's like led them towards their success over time. Makes sense. You gotta make it fun. Gotta make it a good time. Why would anyone want to come? Why would they want to give you your best if you're not giving them your best? I think I said that a little tripped up somewhere along the way.
I think we get it though.
But we all get it. Hey, let's pop over into these Gush and Goes.
Great job, everyone. Set your equipment down. Gush and Go.
Cool. I'll kick things off this week. It's been super eventful for me. This last weekend, I just did my United auditions, and they're still in process. So, like, I honestly need to be careful. I can't need to speak very general.
Who got cut? Who got cut?
Yeah, we got lists, we got names, and this is where you actually figure out that you didn't get a callback. Sorry,
you weren't listening to the podcast.
No, but it's really cool to me. I feel like actually most of my Gush and Goes keep coming back to United, but from being in that group in 2017 to seeing it develop its 2 ensemble, like its open program, and now like we have a drum corps sized practically audition for these 2 ensembles, but everyone is just drummers. It's
heck yeah.
Like, it's such a cool thing to see for United over time. And it's also just like really impressive to me how good the members are nowadays. Because when I first made United in 2017, there were six of us for 5 spots. And like nowadays, everyone is better than everyone that made that baseline. And there's like 18 of them for 2 spots. It's like a totally different beast. I'm honored to be, one large hand in the pot. We don't got a lot of bass techs, so it's cool to have a real say over like the line that I was a part of for so many years. It's been real cool to me. Can't wait to talk in less generalities as I get through the season.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And I, as somebody, so I'm the executive director of EVA Independent. We're going into our 3rd year, and it's so cool to hear that, what's that? What is that? 17 to 24 is 7 years, something like that. That you see that much expansion, and we're seeing that in 3 years right now. Where we just put out our interest form on Friday, and by Sunday morning there were 30 interested people that were asking about like, when do we pay? And it's like, okay. And I start looking through the experience, and it's like drum corps, world class winds group, world class, and it's like, oh shoot, this is way different than the 5 people that showed up at our first audition camp just 3 years ago. So it's cool to hear how quick these things expand. And sometimes you get a little bit of imposter syndrome or worried about the future, but it sounds like they're the group is in great hands with you there, and you being a part of that process, I think just continues on, the work that you put in way back in 2017. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, dude, definitely. And it's like we just brought in a staff member from the baseline from last year. Who it was crazy when he was in my baseline. It was a bonus year, so he was already teaching Crossman the summer before, and then he came back to age out in my United baseline. Taught Crossman again last summer. So like we're just keeping the train rolling of like people that have really given back to that baseline, getting the opportunity to like come take the reins of it. Really cool stuff, man. I'm really excited for it. But what do you want to gush and go on about, Joey?
I guess right now, this Saturday was my first of 6 weekends in a row where I'm going to be judging across the U.S. This one was in Western North Carolina. This weekend I go to Virginia, and I get to judge with just an absolute stacked judging panel. Like Josh Bernays is going to be there from Strike. KJ Stafford's on there. Doug Castine is there. There's Dr. Ambrose is a big music person down here. He's on that panel, and I'm like, why am I judging visual performance around these just absolute powerhouses, and then I'm judging in Wyoming and Eastern North Carolina, and just I continue on all the way through the last week of October. So my gush and go is I'm just judging, I'm writing drill, I'm getting those last movements out of choreography, drill, some last minute set design stuff, some big band-aids on some real unpolished situations that we kind of saw happening, and just band. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, band is like all of our lives.
Yeah.
Especially in between the days of September 1st and October 31st. But
yeah.
Sergio, what do you want to gush and go on about?
I was going to say, I'm like in the opposite boat. This is the first time I have not taught band in
really
10 years, I want to say. Yeah, I've been teaching drumline since I got out of high school. So this is the first fall season I'm not with any organization. So I can't agree. I think I'm so not in a band. It's like so funny that you say that, but I will be when I start shooting eventually, like soon enough.
I'm gonna message you a schedule really quick. I've got rehearsal starting at 2:30 tomorrow. You'll be there. I'm gonna tell the band director you're there. So we're just gonna get you working. Thanks so much for volunteering your time.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I'll be there. Band.
Take a deep breath. Take a second deep breath. Those are for me and for Joey. They're not for you.
But I guess recently I've been on I've been trying to expand my business portfolio in terms of video production. So I've been, while I have my band clients on those most rampant weeks, I'm starting to build out the rest of my year, if you will, surrounding the non-band moments. So
Yes,
that way, because when I did quit teaching drums, I also quit my day job. So from that moment, I was just fully video. And so
nice.
It's been really fun to like,
yeah,
and that's been my Gush and Go recently.
I was interested in asking, but I didn't know if that would have been like overstepping or what. But it's cool to hear that is like you've been able to fully take that leap and dedicate yourself completely to your own page. Congratulations.
Oh yeah. Totally. Thank you. And it's not like butterflies and rainbows by any means. It's like it's totally teaching me a whole new level of like how to manage my life, which is really interesting. Like I've worked clocked in jobs and paychecks for so long, and now it's all trying to catch what I eat almost with video production. It's really fun and really scary at the same time.
Yeah. I could imagine, but now like the ceiling is so high, and if at anything, regardless of how the ceiling would go, it's just cool that you're being able to fully dedicate to your passion.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, taking the leap has been crazy. So.
Yeah, as somebody that their only income is from marching band, like I empathize, and I I know how like I did not do well at the clocked in stuff. I worked for Best Buy Mobile. I wrote a how to sell book with them. I was at that level where it's like, how many cell phones do you want me to sell? Okay, you want 13 today. I'm gonna move over, a family of 17 from Verizon to Sprint. We all know how terrible Sprint is, but I'm gonna do it because you want phones. I left that, left those commissions, left those, those spaces for doing marching band, and very quickly had to be like, oh shoot, I have to send out emails. Like I have to find clients. I have to be on time. I have to be professional. And that was a different space for me as a person. Because as a dancer and as somebody that was just trying to get, money to buy gas, that didn't matter to me. And so to make that switch is real tough. And, I applaud you for making that jump. It's very scary. And if you ever need anything, let me know. I'd love to help out in any way, but it sounds like you can help me. You're way more better set up than I think I ever was to make the leap. So good for you.
Thank you. I don't know if I was any better set up. I think, I took the leap when it wasn't working with my schedule anymore. It was kind of like when my job was like, oh, you weren't here because of a photo shoot. It was like, that started to happen more and more. And it was like, and not that I wasn't telling them, it just became to the point where it's like the more miscommunications happened because it was happening more often. It was like kind of the universe pulling at my string. Like it's time to open up more time, it's time to, and I don't think anyone's ready for that. It just happened to be my door that I had to take through. So
yeah, I like to think of life as a highway, and that was your exit. Yeah,
totally. I like that.
That's awesome. Very good inspirational way to leave off. I kind of hope that in some day I could figure out my own music related niche that fits just right, and I could say something similar. But thank you for a great rehearsal this week, you guys. Thank you, Joey, for joining me. Sergio, we've been talking about it all episode, but where could they find you?
Yeah, you can find us at Marching Vlogs or marchingvlogs.com. Find us on all the major platforms. Email us, info@marchingvlogs.com. That's where we kind of take in all inquiries and, answer general video questions if you're a business owner. So, yeah.
Awesome. Great. And then you could also find us on our YouTube channel. It's got many of our interviews coming out in full video editions as well. Go subscribe so you don't miss those. And before you close out of your podcast listening app, go subscribe, write us a review, and share it with a friend. Follow us on social media at On a Water Break, and we will see you at the next rehearsal on a water break.
The On a Water Break podcast was produced by Jeremy Williams and Christine Ream. The intro and outro music was produced by Josh Lyda. To learn more, visit lydamusic.com. And until next time, thanks for tuning in.